Welcome to Business Edge Radio, the show that gives you tips, tricks, tools, and techniques about how to build a more profitable business, while at the same time creating your perfect lifestyle. It's a show about working less and living more. A few golden nuggets, a little bit of wisdom, and over 35 years of business experience to help you keep your edge. Lifestyle entrepreneur, best-selling author, internationally renowned business speaker, and daddy of three, Mitche Graf brings the heat with actionable techniques for building the business and lifestyle of your dreams. Now your host, Mitche Graf.
Hello there, my Unleashed tribe, and welcome to a new year. A new beginning, a new attitude, new diets, new exercise programs, new ideas, and of course, new opportunities for you to build a better business and live a more fulfilled life. Welcome to Business Edge Radio, the ultimate brainstorming session for your business and your life. I am your 58-year-old host in a 12-year-old body, Mitche Graf, and I am so excited for the show today for a very special reason. Today, I interviewed best-selling author David Meerman Scott, who has written many books over the years, but we dive into his new book, Fanocracy, turning fans into customers and customers into fans, which you may remember a few months back when I did a book review on it. We also discuss how to deliver 6-star service in a 1-star world. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? And we start the year off right with a recipe for Grandpaw Graf's Arkansas Hushpuppy balls. So make sure you stick around until the end for that. Traditional customer service is officially dead. We are now in a world that demands things faster, more conveniently, and cheaper. And we have given up much of our demand for wanting exceptional service. If we go through the drive-thru to get our morning caffeine and only have to wait 20 minutes in line to get our $5 latte and a forced smile from the barista, we're happy and we tip them a couple of bucks. If we only have to wait on hold for 10 minutes to talk with our banker about getting a new car loan, we feel fortunate. And if our server at our favorite restaurant only has to be reminded twice about refilling our water, it's a great day. Long gone are the days when you pulled into a service station to get gas and were met by a wonderful smile and a "Good morning, can I fill you up today with our premium grade gasoline so your engine works more efficiently? And while you're here, I'll check under the hood to make sure your fluid levels are good and that you don't have any other issues. I'll also give a quick check on your tire pressure and clean your windshield while you wait." We would pull in for gas, a common commodity, and instead we're giving a vast plethora of unexpected services that were provided for free, all because you chose to do business with that particular station. And oh yeah, we got gas while we were there also. I can remember when I was a teenager going to a service station on the corner next to my high school just because I thought it was fun to watch the employees work. But guess what? Anytime I needed gas, I would only go to that station. I was loyal to the people that worked there, loyal to the brand name, and addicted to the feeling that I got whenever I would pull in. It made me feel special and valued. To this day, I still use the same brand of gas because of my memories of days gone by. Today, we pull into a gas station. No, they don't call them service stations anymore. We get out of our car to pump our own gas, slide our own debit card. If we want our windshields washed or our oil checked, we got to do it ourselves. And if we pay cash, we got to go inside and wait in line in order to prepay. If our card doesn't take all the money that we paid, we got to go back in, stand in line again to get our change. If we get a smile and a thank you, those are complete bonuses. By the time we get back in our car to leave, we feel stressed and rushed, not to mention smelly from the gas on our hands. As the digital revolution continues to turn most traditional businesses on their heads, so too has the decrease in the importance of having actual humans at the front line of business. The internet has taken away much of that human interaction that just a few short years ago was vitally important to a business's survival. Shopping for groceries, buying a movie ticket, getting a hot dog at a baseball game, or simply stopping at the bank to make a deposit. In our lives, these are all touch points when we have the opportunity for conversation with a frontline employee during our purchase or during our visit. If I'm not greeted with at least a very short and friendly, "Hello, how are you today?" or brief eye contact just for a moment, I have no problem saying, "Hello, don't forget to greet your customers," or "Hello, don't forget to smile at your customers." It's not that I expect to have a real conversation, but I do expect to at least be shown a little consideration since I am the one paying their wage. It drives my wife and kids crazy when I do it, but it's something I feel very strongly about. To most retail and service type businesses, they must depend on having those frontline folks represent their brand at the highest levels. But for some unknown reason, that skill has not been given the importance that it once had. In my opinion, it has become a dying art. If you are even a little bit like me, you feel the same way. We expect to have a basic level of customer service when we have some sort of interaction with the business. Get it right, and they continue to get our support. Blow it, and we'll be happy to tell our friends and family about our bad experience. When you hear about the accolades of the best hotels and restaurants in the world, you typically hear about the 5-star rating that they have. To them, and to the customers that they serve, that means that they are the absolute best at what they do. There's no better number than a 5-star. There's a wide variety of rating systems used by different organizations all over the world. Many have a system involving stars, with the greater number of stars indicating greater luxury. You got the Forbes Travel Guide, formerly the Mobile Travel Guide, launching its star rating system in 1958. The AAA uses diamonds instead of stars to express hotel and restaurant rating levels. 5 stars is the equivalent of 2 thumbs up for a movie, or 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Basically, it means that a business can't do any better in taking care of its customers. Well, let's take this star rating concept for a little walk around the block, okay? Let's say it's Friday night and you decide to order delivery for your family of 5. Everyone votes on Chinese, so you visit the internet to take a look at the menu for Choose Palace, the family favorite. The website is professionally done, the menu is simple to understand, and the phone number is front and center. When you call, the phone is answered right before the second ring with a happy voice that says, "Good evening, Choose Palace, how can I help you?" You place your order, the person on the phone gives you a total and says that your food will be there in 30 minutes. You say thank you, you hang up the phone. 30 minutes later, there's a knock at the door. When you open it, you're greeted by a well-dressed young man who says, "Hello, I have your order from Choose. Your total is $62.55. You pull out 4 20s, hand it to him, tell him to keep the change, and say thank you. He gives you one last smile as he tells you to have a good evening and to enjoy the food. The smells coming out of the bag are making you even more hungry than you already were, and you are ready to dive in. Your family devours their food in no time flat. You each read your fortune cookie, and you all agree that everything was good. Now, most people would say that this service deserves 5 stars. Would you agree? There was nothing about the experience that went sideways, and everything was exactly as you expected. Not less, not more, but exactly what you expected. So let's break this down just a little bit further. 5 stars means you met my expectations, didn't drop any balls, I didn't have any issues, and everything was as expected. This is the case in my example. Everything was A-OK. 4-star service means you may have met my expectations, but maybe the driver was 10 minutes late. 3-star service means you kind of met my expectations, but the driver was 10 minutes late, and my food was cold. 2-star service means you didn't really meet my expectations, the driver was 10 minutes late, my food was cold, and the person on the phone was a little bit rude. And 1-star service means you didn't meet any of my expectations, the driver was 10 minutes late, my food was cold, the person on the phone was a little bit rude, plus I didn't even like the food. I've heard people even say that they would have given a business a 0-star review if that was an option. Something like that would make any business owner cringe. To me, it sure seems that there isn't any way to reward a business if they go above and beyond our expectations. What if, when you called the restaurant, they called you by your first name because your name came up on the caller ID? What if they included complimentary egg flour soup with your order? And what if the driver showed up in 20 minutes instead of 30? What if when you answered the door, the driver once again used your first name and handed you the bags? And what if he also gave you a $5 gift card that you can use towards the next family dine-in date night? And then, what if they sent you an email the next day with some recipes that you could try at home along with a coupon for your next visit? And then, what if they sent you a special happy birthday card with signatures from all the employees wishing you a happy birthday? And what if, when you ordered the fixins from them for your annual holiday party at your office, their staff spends extra time helping you set up everything? Now, none of this is rocket science or difficult, but I think we all can agree that it would make us feel very, very good about doing business with that company. In fact, I venture to say that we would consider ourselves big fans, and will probably let friends and coworkers know about how great it is to do business with Choose Palace. This company will have earned the coveted and mystical 6-star in your book. So here's the challenge. Grab yourself a pen and paper, good cup of coffee, and hit the easy chair, and I want you to do 3 things. First of all, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of your perfect customer and take a look at your business from their perspective, not yours. We all tend to get that tunnel vision and get stuck in ruts when it comes to making the customer experience the best it can be. Evaluate every aspect of the customer experience when someone comes into your business or experiences you online or some other point of contact. While you are doing this, you should also find areas that perhaps aren't as efficient or customer-centric as they should be. And this is actually great news. It just means that there's room for improvement. The other part of this first step is to bring your customers into the project. What do they love about your company? What do they not love about you? And what suggestions can they give on ways to improve the experience they have with you? This can be as simple as picking up the phone and calling a small handful of your customers that you feel will give you some honest feedback. Another way is to have a customer satisfaction survey available for people to fill out, whether it's in person or online. If you already have customer surveys that people fill out, great. If not, then this is your chance to develop a short questionnaire that will provide you with valuable information. So now you have 2 data sets, your own perspective and your customer's perspective. Second, I want you to write down what would make you an avid customer of your business. And don't put any limitations on what your mind spits out. Write it all down. What would it take for your business to deliver not only a 5-star experience, but to earn a 6-star? Which of your systems are causing you the biggest headaches and biggest pains when it comes to having a smooth relationship with your customer? Is there a need to completely break down those systems to smaller moving pieces and then rebuild them with fewer moving pieces? Everything must be on the table for this exercise. And last, I want you to begin the work of recreating that customer experience from the ground up. I realize that this may take some time, some serious evaluation, and perhaps some additional resources to complete, but it's important that you begin this process now. Make a plan, set some goals on how you are going to measure your progress, and begin the work of creating an atmosphere around your business that allows your customers to have a 6-star feeling each and every time they do business with you. If you keep this philosophy in the front of your mind in everything that your business does, I can guarantee you that you will revolutionize your entire mindset, and before long, you will find yourself growing by leaps and bounds. Hello, Unleashed Tribe. I am so honored to have you as a loyal listener, and I'm very excited to tell you about the Business Edge Radio app, now available on Apple and Android devices. You can catch up on past episodes, watch short videos of the Business Edge Minute, our 60-second show that gives you quick and easy tips on building a better business and living a better life. And you'll get access to bonus materials that are only available on the app. In fact, I have a nice little PDF bonus waiting for you there right now. Plus, you can email the show, call the show, connect with us on social, check out our website, and even make a nice fluffy omelet. No, you can't really do that. Just go to the iTunes Store or Google Play Store, and you can download the Business Edge Radio app so you can be one of the cool kids on your block. Business Edge Radio, the ultimate brainstorming session for your business and life. Now available in the App Store. Download it today. And if you don't, I'll come visit you on your day off. My interview today is with David Meerman Scott, whose name may be familiar to you. You may have a couple of his best-selling books on your bookshelf right now, or have seen him at a conference or convention over the years. He's an internationally acclaimed sales and marketing strategist whose high-energy presentations have been given on all 7 continents and in over 40 countries. His books and blog is must-reads for professionals seeking to generate attention in ways that grow your business. He's the author or co-author of 12 books, 3 of which are international bestsellers. The New Rules of Marketing and PR has been translated into 27 languages and is a modern business classic. Scott also authored Real-Time Marketing and PR, which was a Wall Street Journal bestseller, Newsjacking, The New Rules of Sales and Service, and his newest bestseller, Fanocracy, Turning Customers into Fans and Fans into Customers, which he co-wrote with his daughter, Reiko Scott. He's a co-author of Marketing the Moon and Marketing Lessons from the Grateful Dead. You're going to hear some more about his passion for live music during our interview. As the interview goes on, I want you to pay attention to the way that he talks about fans and customers and passion. He believes that our always-on, web-driven world has new rules for competing and growing a business. Advanced planning is out, Agile is in. Those who embrace new ways will be far more successful than those who stay stuck and afraid of change. So please enjoy my in-depth and wide-ranging conversation with David Meerman Scott. Well, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's so great to be here. I love how we met one another.
So do I.
You hit my Google alerts because a couple episodes ago you mentioned my book Fanocracy, and I'm like, whoa, who's this guy? Got to check this out. and I listened to it and found out that you had read my book, and I really appreciate that. So, and here we are because I reached out to say hello.
Yeah, and I've read that book along with a couple other ones. So. You have a real sincere passion for studying and researching the difference between what a customer is and what a fan is. And I think if you were to ask most people what the difference is, they wouldn't be able to come up with a good answer. To start out, what is the difference between a customer and a fan?
I think that a fan is somebody who has built a true human connection with a company or a product or a service or an idea or a rock band or an author or whatever it might be, or could even be a sport that they love to play or a sports team that they enjoy watching. And the real difference that you can measure is if somebody else comes along with something that's better, faster, cheaper, the fan will stay with another company. So what it means is that when you build fans, as long as you don't screw it up, they're there for life. Even if there's somebody who comes in who has a similar offering that's cheaper or more convenient or whatever, because you've built that fan base.
Mm-hmm. I can think of several things that I would consider myself to be a huge fan of. Levi's, since I was a kid back in high school. Right. You and I are about the same age. Legos, in my generation, and now all three of my kids' generation. Traeger grills. I love smoking and grilling. And I'm a true fan of that company. Electric Light Orchestra, Robin Williams. There's certain things that I just absolutely... Dodgers is probably my biggest fandom. Even during the off season, I try to fly the blue, and I know you are a big fan of the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
And we all have things that we are fans of. But there's a lot of people out there that may feel they're in an industry that doesn't allow itself or doesn't lend itself to having a true fan base like the traditional sense. What can they do?
So the question that you asked is an interesting one because I get a lot of people who ask me something similar to this. And many times what they're doing is they're putting up resistance to this idea of building fandom. In some cases, it's because they fear the unknown of building relationships with people, or they just don't want to change from what they're currently doing. But I wrote this book with my daughter, Reiko. She's now 27 years old, and we started the journey together about 5 years ago. And we recognized as we were digging into this idea of fandom that there are examples from all different organizations and different markets, and even in industries that people hate. And my favorite example of that is the auto insurance business, which arguably is one of the businesses that people hate the most.
I agree.
Maybe up there with airlines. And auto insurance, think about it.
Right.
It's no fun to write that check to an auto insurance company. And furthermore, you never, ever want to use the product because it meant you crashed your car.
That's right. That's right.
So what a terrible business, right? And I'm actually personally a fan of an auto insurance company called Hagerty. And I was analyzing, why do I love these people so much, Hagerty Insurance? Well, they do classic car auto insurance. And then I spoke with McKeel Hagerty, the entrepreneurial owner of the business. And he said, David, we set out to build fans because we recognized that we can't grow our business the way that other companies are growing their auto insurance business. We don't want to spend more money on advertising than everybody else. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to be the low cost provider. Instead, we want to build fans. Right. So what does Hagerty do? They go to classic car auto shows around North America, and they're there providing valuable information to people. They've got a booth and they provide information not just about auto insurance, but about all things classic cars. The second thing, they have a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers, and they produce these fabulous YouTube videos that are of interest to people who love classic cars. And what I particularly like is that they realized that they had a database of the valuations of classic cars that was probably the best in the world because it was based on real data. In other words, if somebody registers a particular year Ferrari of a different, certain model, that's a real value that owner uses for how much they want to insure that vehicle for. And they realized that they had quite literally millions of different data points of values of different cars. So they made that database available to people to see how much their classic car is worth. All of these things add up to building fans, and it turned them into the largest classic car auto insurance company in the entire world. They're going to grow by double-digit growth again this year, as they have every single year. They'll do 200,000 new customers this year. And I've been with them for 15 years. If somebody came along and say, we're going to do exactly the same thing they're doing, but cheaper, I would not switch. Right. And that's the true measure of a fan.
Well, I think right now there's probably a lot of people going to Google and putting in the name of the insurance company, because I already am a half a fan just from what you've told me.
They're awesome. And you don't even have to own a classic car to love what they're doing, because it's just such an interesting example to me. And what I really like about that example is it's in a business everybody hates. And so we found examples of nonprofits and government agencies and doctors and lawyers and dentists and B2B software companies and commodity products like batteries. I mean, examples in all different types of industries of people who have developed fans.
Well, if you think about the car industry, when you think of the ads that you're exposed to, whether it be on TV or radio or on YouTube, you think about the boring stuff. They talk about, we sell insurance. If you have a problem, give us a call. We'll fix you. We give you a rental car. They give you these little boring, you call it gobbledygook.
I do.
Talk to me about gobbledygook and how we all kind of fall prey. We get this tunnel vision inside of our business instead of taking that 40,000-foot view. Talk to me about gobbledygook and how we can prevent getting that into our brains.
So there's a couple of different elements of this idea. And basically what happens with every business, and I'm guilty of it too, everybody's guilty of this, is that you end up using the jargon of your own industry or the jargon of the business that you're in. And so that leads to two different things that happen. One is the language that people use in their business tends to devolve into this way of talking that's just corporate speaky, as I call it, gobbledygook. And so here's an example of that that's typical of the business-to-business software industry. They say, we're a flexible, scalable solution for improving business process using cutting-edge technology because we have mission-critical applications. And it's like, what the hell is that? Why not you just talk like a human being?
Right.
And so I always tell people that they really must go and eliminate this gobbledygook language. And there's a couple ways you can do that. Go to your website, take a look at it, read the content, check out your marketing materials, read that content, check out the ways that you're delivering information to existing and potential customers, read that information. It needs to be perfectly understandable by anybody, including your mother. And the second thing, and many times is not, as of course.
Right.
The second thing is read that information, and if you can't tell the difference whether that has come from your company or your biggest competitor, then you need to change. The second type of this concept that I see all the time is the inane use of stock photographs to represent people by organizations, by companies, by all kinds of different people who are doing their marketing. And what they do is they have a picture of, I don't know, a happy multicultural person sitting in a conference room, for example,
or a lady eating a salad, right?
or women laughing alone with salad
right.
is my favorite. And so here's the problem with that. The problem is everybody in the world knows that's a stock photo. It's just their eyes glaze over because it's perfectly, groomed people with perfect teeth and perfect hair. And then if you've got a group of people, there's precisely 2.1 Asians and 4.3 Black people. And, it's just It's ridiculous. And so you have to eliminate those stock photos, which I call visual gobbledygook. And the reason is because as soon as you have the gobbledygook language and gobbledygook photographs, people say, oh, they don't even care enough to personalize. They don't care enough about me as a customer to create a human relationship with me. And that's what it's really about. Because if you use photographs of your employees or yourself or your customers, you're way, way, way further along than just some generic example that you yanked out of a catalog.
And also in that visual realm, not just the pictures, but you talk about using video in a different kind of video. Tell me about that.
So what's really important in video is so interesting because it lights up our brains as if we're actually in a room with somebody. And this is particularly important as you and I are recording this right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic and we can't go and do business as usual and meet people in their offices, or it's difficult to run a store or whatever business you're in. It's hard to meet people in person. And so video becomes really interesting. And I go through the neuroscience behind this because I think it's fascinating. The basic idea with this book I wrote called Fanocracy is that people want a true human connection. That builds fans, and that's a great way to do business, as we talked about with Haggerty Insurance. And the idea of people coming together is rooted, it's hardwired in our brains as humans because it's actually a survival technique. When we're with our tribe of like-minded people. So in my case, as you mentioned, I love the Grateful Dead. I've been to 75 Grateful Dead concerts. I wrote a book about the Grateful Dead called Marketing Lessons from the Grateful Dead. I have dug in deep.
Yes, you have.
And so if I'm with Grateful Dead fans, fellow members of my tribe, that's where I feel safe and comfortable, and that's where I feel I can be myself and let
now
my hair down. So
there's a video, right? There's a video I would like to see you at a Grateful Dead concert. I'm sure they exist somewhere out there, right?
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. And so that's my tribe. And that's rooted in our brains as humans, because when we're with our tribe, we're safe and secure and comfortable. That goes back tens of thousands of years as we were roaming the earth as primitive humans. And when we ran across danger, either other humans that were not part of our tribe or a wild animal, if we had people as part of our tribe with us, that was when we were safe. So another form of neuroscience is called mirror neurons. That's the part of our brain that kicks in when we see somebody or hear somebody doing something as if we're doing it ourselves. And what's interesting about that is the use of video. If you use video and you crop it as if you're about 4 feet from somebody, their brains, even though intellectually they know that they're not in the same room with you, their brains actually fire as if they are together in the same room with you. That's precisely why you feel you know personally a movie star or a television star. You know intellectually you never met that person, but your brain tells you that you're friends because you've seen them on the screen so many times. And so if you use video in your business, on your website, in your social media, that's actually a super great way to build fans because of these different forms of neuroscience. Number one, people project that they're part of a tribe with you if they recognize that they're seeing you on this video because of the mirror neurons that are kicking in. And so we've tested this in a number of different ways. And it's absolutely, totally true that video is going to be a faster route to developing fans. Video of people cropped as if you're 4 feet away, looking directly at the camera, casual, is super, super popular, especially now during the pandemic, but anytime as well.
Let's take a short break for a word from our wonderful marketing partners.
If you know anything about me, you know that I love my early mornings, and I really love a good cup of fresh roasted coffee. There's nothing better than getting started before the rest of the world with a good cup of joe. That's why I'm so excited to have Mountain Creek Coffee as a partner. The process is so simple. You order, they roast, they ship, you enjoy. They don't roast your beans until an order is placed, which guarantees the absolute freshest coffee that you can get. Check out their artisan dark roast, medium roast, or decaf beans at mtncreekcoffee.com. And when you put in the code EDGE at checkout, you will receive 20% off your first order. I prefer the dark roast because of its full body and bold flavor. You order, they roast, they ship, you enjoy. Log on to mtncreekcoffee.com and enter the code EDGE at checkout, and you will receive a 20% discount off your first order. Pretty cool stuff. Mountain Creek Coffee and Business Edge Radio, a partnership brewed out of the love of coffee. See what I did right there? Well, 2020 was quite a year for the world, our families, our businesses, and that human touch, that human element has kind of been removed from our daily communications with customers. And using that video like you're talking about, get in there, make it personal, and then using your social platforms, using your website, using your email database list to communicate with them in an intimate, personal way so that you don't lose that human contact, right?
That's absolutely right. And let me share one data point that sort of proves this. I've been using a service called Vidyard, Vidyard, Vidyard. And what it does is it's a really simple to use service to put little video clips on different parts of a website. And what I've been using it for, and other people also use it for, although there's many different use cases, is to put a little video next to a sign-up form on a website. And so what I use it for is I have a contact form where people can inquire about having me speak at their in-person, when that hopefully comes back in 2021 or 2022, in-person speaking engagement or virtual speaking engagement that I've been doing a lot of during the pandemic. And that's where they reach out to connect with me to see about my speaking availability. And I found that if I put a little video on there that explains what will happen when they fill out the form, that I get between a 20% and a 40% increase in the number of people who fill out that form. And the video is really simple. It's about 30 seconds, and it just says, hey, it's David Meerman Scott here. Thanks for your interest in potentially booking me to speak at your event. If you fill out this form, I'll get it personally. I'll check out who you are. I'll do a little research on your website, and then we'll have a quick phone call or video chat where I can learn about your event and give you a price quote. And that's all it is. And that simple approach of having me personally say that to someone before they're ready to push the button on sending that form increases significantly the number of people who fill that form out. And so that's a measurable benefit of using video, but there's many other places where we've measured. I'll give you one more example of the measurement side. And you may have experienced this yourself, but in social media, if you, for example, on LinkedIn, just to give one social network as an example, if you do a text update to your followers, you might get 500 or 1,000 views. But if you post the same content, it can be exactly the same content, but you post it in the form of a video, LinkedIn shows it to more people, and maybe you'll get 2,000 or even 3,000 views of that video. And the reason is because the LinkedIn algorithm is tuned to prefer video. And then once people see the video, they're more likely to click the like button, which then self-perpetuates that cycle of then LinkedIn showing it to even more people. And so I've seen that myself with my videos, and so have many other people on LinkedIn. So, but not that many people use video on their social networks like LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram.
And you mentioned that video on your speaking page, and I have viewed that video, and you're right. It's short, sweet, to the point, but it makes me get to know you just a little bit more, and you give us expectations. You're going to hear from someone within 24 hours, probably less. And then I'm going to stay after my program if you hire me, and I'm going to interact with your members and have dinner and go to the awards banquet. And you really let people know beforehand, and you add that human element, even though it's a virtual thing. And you've done a project this last year, recently, about virtual events. You wrote a book about virtual events That's one of the hardest things, I think, for a speaker to crack is we're used to a 60-minute platform program. We go up there, we have a slideshow, we make people laugh a little bit, we get some energy, and then we're done. You try to translate that.
You're giving away our secret.
No. But you try to translate that to the online version. Man, our attention spans are like a gnat now. I mean, we have no attention spans now. So if we try to do the same thing, it's not going to work. Talk to me about that project that you decided to get involved in.
It was so interesting to me because I've spent my entire career, and I'm going to turn 60 in 2021. I've spent my entire career involved in taking businesses online. So I started, and this is literally in the mid 1980s, believe it or not, pre-web. I started working in the financial information business for companies like Dow Jones and Reuters, and we were taking the news business online. And then after that, I was started my own business where I was talking about how to bring marketing and public relations online. And in everything that I've seen where a business transitions to going online, everybody fails who tries to recreate what they already know in an offline world to the online world. So newspapers failed when they simply tried to take their print newspaper and put it online. Advertising agencies failed when they simply tried to transfer their advertising model to the web. And I found when the pandemic hit, as people were bringing their events online, and speakers were bringing their presentations online, that the exact same thing was happening, that when they were taking the thing that they knew from an offline world, what an event is or what a speech is, and then simply recreating that in an online world, it was failing. And the reason is because they're completely different things. From a speaker's perspective, an in-person speech is a theatrical experience. It's a 3-act play. It's presenting to a large group of people in a big room, whereas a virtual speech is more of a cinematic experience. It's presenting on a small screen. And it's completely different what's required. And I saw that crystal clear in March and April of this year when everybody else was struggling with it. And the reason is because I had what I consider an unfair head start in the sense that I had all of these background in how businesses come online. And so I decided to write a book called Standout Virtual Events with my friend Michelle. I come at it from the perspective of being a professional speaker for 20 years. Michelle comes at it from being somebody who has put on events for 20 years. So we decided to just put together this book, and we did it quickly. It came out in September of 2020. Started writing it in about, I think we started writing it in about June or July. And it really does highlight how you can be successful with virtual events, either as an event organizer or a speaker. But what I love about having done this project, I mean, it was hard work because we had to really dig into it in a short period of time. But what I love about it is it's helped a lot of people make that transition. And they weren't very successful when they were just trying to recreate what they already knew.
Well, you mentioned writing. You've written how many books now? 10?
12 books.
12 books. And I think it all started back about 20 years ago with a one called Eyeball Wars.
Yeah.
That was a little bit different than the other books that you've written. Tell me about what motivated you to write that first one.
That was very different because Eyeball Wars is a thriller.
It's a novel, right?
Yeah, it's a thriller. And I don't know. I just felt like I had a story in my head. I felt like I needed to write. And that was back when I was still actually working for a company. At the time, I was working for Thomson Reuters. And so it was, I felt like I wasn't right to maybe do a nonfiction book, a business book. So I decided to just write a novel. And it was good. And the reason it was really good for me to do that, and the book did okay. We sold a bunch of copies. And it's dated now because it's it's the first thriller about an internet startup company. And so it's quite dated, but as a period piece, I suppose it's interesting. But what was great about doing that project, and I've written other fiction as well, but it hasn't been published, is that to be successful with fiction, there has to be conflict. built into every single page of a book, because any story without conflict is simply propaganda. And so once a story has conflict, it becomes interesting. So for example, boy meets girl, they fall in love and they get married is an absolutely boring story.
Right.
However, boy meets girl, they fall in love. There's something that brings them apart. They're all sad and lonely. They have a fight, and then they get back together and they get married, is the story that has been told tens of thousands of times in human history. And that's interesting because there's conflict built in. And so by doing a novel, it became really interesting in that I learned how to build conflict into my stories, into my writing. So I learned as a nonfiction writer that building conflict into stories, building conflict into business books, even building conflict into my LinkedIn profile. And if anyone wants to check out what that means, go to LinkedIn, type in David Meerman Scott. You'll find me and take a look at my LinkedIn profile. Because I built in conflict from the very first sentence.
Very interesting.
And when conflict is built in to writing, it's way, way, way more interesting to people. And so maybe that's one of the reasons why my books have sold nearly 1 million copies around the world in 30 languages. And Fanocracy, my most recent book that came out in 2020, hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list because the conflict within the stories in my books move things along in such a way that people enjoy the reading it and they want to keep going.
Well, you look at Disney, every single one of their movies is the fairy tale, but in the middle of it, there's conflict. And it brings the hero back into vision or whatever it is. And we all have vivid memories of important times in our life, whether it is the birth of our kids or when we get married. Do you remember where you were and what you were doing the first time you found out that one of your books had just made the Wall Street Journal and New York Times bestsellers list?
Oh, I remember distinctly. Yeah, I remember distinctly. I did a book called The New Rules of Marketing and PR. It's my most popular book to date.
I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, cool. Thank you. So the first edition of The New Rules of Marketing and PR came out in 2007. What edition do you have?
I bought it about 2-3 years ago on Amazon.
It's probably like the fifth or the sixth edition.
Yeah.
So the first edition came out in 2007. I'm now on the 7th edition, and I'm considering when I'll start on the 8th edition. But the first edition came out in 2007, and my publisher was not expecting it to do very well. They're happy to publish the book. They gave me a small advance, and they called it a mid-list title. That meant that in the world of New York publishing, that meant that it was in the middle of the catalog, and they expected it to sell enough to be to do okay, but not be huge. And it freaking took off, and it became the number one book for my entire publisher, the biggest business book publisher in the world, became the number one book for them that year. And no one was expecting it to do very well. And then I was in my car. And I was actually I was just about to get out of my car to go get a haircut. And my phone buzzed. And it was a text message from my editor. And she said, "David, congratulations. You made the Business Week bestseller list." And I'm like, "Wow, how cool is that?" And I texted her back, "Wow, that's a surprise. Thank you." And we ended up, the Business Week bestseller list, unfortunately, no longer exists, but it was a monthly list. And New Rules of Marketing and PR was on that list 6 months in a row, which was super cool.
Oh, that's great. So what's next for you? Do you have something big coming down the pipeline that you're working on or that the world will soon find out?
I actually don't talk about things that I'm working on until they come out, because I found that I'd rather have people focus on the things that they can buy right now.
Gotcha.
My book, Fanocracy, I love. It's I think the best book I've ever written. I love the fact that I wrote it with my daughter. You've got not only me, a nearly 60-year-old white guy who loves the Grateful Dead, but you've also got the viewpoint of a of a mixed race millennial woman who loves Harry Potter and is an emergency room doctor. We couldn't be more different, yet we both come from the same perspective on the idea of fandom. And so I've always found that if I talk about future work too early, it distracts people from the things that they can do right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you were to boil the book Fanocracy, turning fans into customers and customers into fans, if you boil it down to one sentence, I think this one probably exemplifies it the best. The relationships we build with our customers are more important than the products and services that we sell to them. And I think that's just a perfect way to kind of encapsulate the book. And I assume there's going to be a lot of people go and check this book out, because I don't care what industry you're in. You could be selling car insurance. You could be a doctor. You could be a skateboarding dentist. You could be anything and get value out of learning how to take what is a customer, a paying customer, and turning that into somebody that is passionate about being involved with you in whatever dimension that means. I think this book is, I agree, it's a phenomenal book, and everyone needs to have it on their bookshelf. How can an entrepreneur, and this will be one of the last things we talk about, how can an entrepreneur take one of their passions and help it grow their fan base?
So you mentioned the skateboarding dentist, and it's one of my favorite examples. People are attracted to passion, and it doesn't have to be passion for what you do for a living or your business. They can be attracted just for your passion for life or the passion of the things that you love to do. And I've mentioned a couple of times my love of the Grateful Dead, and many people know that I love the Grateful Dead, and they don't have to like the Grateful Dead to appreciate that I'm passionate about it.
It's part of your brand, isn't it?
It is part of my brand, exactly. And so I was speaking at a Tony Robbins event. I speak at Tony Robbins Business Mastery events and have done so since 2014. This was maybe 2 years ago. And I was talking about the idea of fanocracy and fandom and growing fans. And this gentleman approached me and said, "David, I'm a dentist. I don't have fans." And I said, "Well, what's your name?" "Dr. Marashi." He said John Marashi. I call him Dr. Marashi. "Dr. Marashi, I think that any organization can build fans. Tell me about what you love to do." And he goes, "I love to skateboard." And I said, "Well, that's cool. Have you ever talked about skateboarding in relationship to your dental practice?" He's like, "No, why would I do that?" And I said, "Well, because people might be attracted to the fact that you love to skateboard." So I didn't hear from him for about 6 months. He reached out to me and said, "David, I've done what you said. I have skateboards on the wall in my dental practice. I skateboard from one examination room to the other." He has on his website pictures of him skateboarding. He created an Instagram that has over 15,000 followers now, and many videos and photos of him skateboarding. So now he's not just a dentist in California. He's the skateboarding
dentist. Yeah.
And he actually was able to measure the fact that just by making this one change and celebrating that he loves the skateboard, now in the last year was able to grow his business by 30% in terms of new customers and 23% in terms of new revenue. So he's doing nearly a quarter more revenue just in a year, just by showcasing his love for skateboarding. And the reason is simple. When people are choosing a dentist, they can go with someone who's just generic with a white coat on and some degree behind them in a photograph, or some guy on a half pipe. and it's super cool to want to have that skateboarding dentist be the person who does the work on your mouth. And it's not because you are also a skateboarder. It's just because anybody can appreciate his passion.
It makes a personal connection to them, I think is what it is.
Absolutely right.
So where can people connect with you?
If there's any interest at all in Fanocracy, the book I wrote with my daughter, please check out www.fanocracy.com. Got some videos and some content up there you can check out. Also links to buy the book. On the socials, I am DM Scott, DMSCOTT. So for example, if you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me that way. And also, I'm the only David Meerman Scott in the world. So if you want to Google me, you will find all kinds of stuff.
Well, David Meerman Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to share your incredible insights with our audience. And I can't wait to see what you come up with next.
My pleasure. It's really great to be on. And I'm so glad that you talked about Fanocracy in a prior show, and that led us together. I appreciate that.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show, and good luck in 2021.
Thanks. Very same to you.
What an inspirational and knowledgeable man David is. My biggest takeaway? We all need to figure out ways to incorporate as much passion as we can into our sales and marketing programs so that customers can make a real connection with us, which will lead to creating more fans. Fans of Business Edge Radio, I have a very special treat for you. As you know, I love barbecuing and making up any excuse to get myself outdoors. And that's why I'm so excited to partner with Barbecue Nation. They make incredible sauces and rubs and spices and meat shredders and grill scrapers and lots more. And they're offering a deal for our listeners. Check out bbqnation.net. And when you place an order for any of their products, you'll receive a 20% discount off your order when you enter the word EDGE at checkout. Looking for a magnet that lists your cooking temperatures or different types of smoking woods? They got that. Need a heavy-duty set of meat shredders for your pulled pork or shredded chicken sliders? They got that too. Or my favorite is their Magic Dust Everything Rub that will spice up just about any dish. Log on to bbqnation.net. That's bbqnation.net today. And when you enter the code EDGE at checkout, you'll receive a 20% discount just because you hang out with us on the show. Barbecue Nation, get your grill on.
Time for Cooking Corner with Mitch. Yum.
When I was growing up, my dad used to take me, my brother, and my sister and go to Arkansas in the summer to visit my Grandma Howard and do a little fishing in the river. Her home cooking was incredible. Everything was made from scratch, and it all had her trademark triple batch of love, which is something that to this day I still include in my recipes. One of my favorite things to eat was her Hushpuppies, which are a staple in Southern cooking. First steps, as always, turn on some really, really good music, grab your favorite beverage, and join me in the kitchen. Now, there's plenty of versions of how the Hushpuppy came into existence, but my favorite one is this. The most common explanation is that people on fishing trips would begin cooking their catch, and the hounds would yowl and yap in anticipation. Why they had hound dogs with them on a fishing trip is still a mystery. But the cooks would fry bits of dough in the fryer and throw them to the puppies to hush them. Hush puppies. Get it? How do I know that this is the best recipe you're ever going to eat? Well, it boasts the perfect cornmeal to flour ratio, giving it the tender texture you expect from a great Hushpuppy. If made from just cornmeal, Hushpuppies start to fall apart in the oil. If too much flour is used, the Hushpuppies become heavy and dense and bread-like. So this recipe has a 3-to-1 ratio. 1.5 cups of cornmeal, half a cup of flour. Now the type of cornmeal you use is equally important. The options can be overwhelming, especially in the South, where the tradition of cornbread and cornmeal is everywhere. For homemade Hushpuppies, opt for a fine to medium grind cornmeal and spring for groundstone if you can. Mass market cornmeal can give fritters a unappealing gritty texture. As for color, both white and yellow are great. Now this recipe serves 4 to 6 people, makes it between 18 and 20 little Hushpuppy balls, but you can adjust it accordingly for the size of your family or your gathering. So here's what you're going to need. 1.5 cups of fine or medium grind cornmeal, half cup of all-purpose flour. You can use the gluten-free flour if you want. 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, half teaspoon of baking soda, half teaspoon of granulated sugar, which is optional. You can leave this out. 1/2 small yellow onion minced up. 1 large egg, 1 cup of buttermilk. You can use milk, but trust me when I say you're going to want to use buttermilk. And then 4 cups of peanut or vegetable oil, whatever your preference is for deep frying. Combine all the dry ingredients, whisk them all together, prepare the wet ingredients, and then add them to the dry. Fry the Hushpuppies in small batches. You can use a small ice cream scoop to drop the golf ball size rounds, which is about 2 tablespoons each of batter into your oil, about 5 at a time. Make sure not to crowd the pot, which will cause the temperature to drop too quickly, and your Hushpuppies will turn to mush puppies. Drain the Hushpuppies very well on paper towels and serve. You can add a pat of butter, some of your favorite jam, or eat them with nothing on them at all. which I think is the best way to enjoy these bad boys. Nice thing about Hushpuppy Mix is that you really can have some fun with some of the ingredients that you add, like maybe chopped bacon or cheddar cheese or broccoli or mushrooms or whatever suits your fancy. Warning! These are very dangerous. If you aren't careful, you can easily polish off 8 to 10 of these little guys in no time flat. So make sure your treadmill is warmed up after dinner. Give this one a try. Let me know how things turn out. Well, that will do it for this edition of Business Edge Radio. My parting shot today is this. Inside of me, there's a thin person struggling to get out, but I can usually sedate him with 4 or 5 cupcakes. Bob Thays, or maybe a few of Grandma's hush puppies. Until next time, this is Mitche Graf, reminding you to live every day like it's a Saturday and to live with passion. I'll catch you later.
Thanks for hanging out with Business Edge Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to subscribe, rate, and review. Then hop on over to www.mitchegraf.com to get even more meat and potatoes. We also invite you to follow the show at facebook.com/Unleashed Tribe. The most valuable asset that any of us has is our time. And we thank you for choosing to spend some of your precious time with us.